Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Integrate Business Rules and Decision Management into Your Workflows. In today's webinar, ProcessMaker Solutions Architect, Deepo Magicadumi, is going to do a demo of how you can integrate a rules engine and decision management into your everyday business processes. Deepo, take it away.
Thank you, Matt. Today, I'm really excited to be showing us how you can integrate business rules and decision management into your workflows. And the whole idea is basically to be able to to enhance the business process by driving the routing of requests on the fly with decision management service. So what are we going to cover today? We'll look at an overview of ProcessMaker, an overview of OpenRules Decision Manager, and then we'll look at the process that we're going to build, then we'll do a demo of it, and then take questions. So what's ProcessMaker? Well, as you all know, we are an award-winning low-code IBPMS and digital process automation platform, and we're very excited about our most recent award. We're awarded the best digital process automation solution by Cody for 2020, and that for us is validation of our product vision that we're on the right track in building a low-code platform that allows business users and non-technical users and even technical users to rapidly deploy solutions, process applications within the organization. And let's go and see. So when we say low-code, basically we mean being able to compose applications without having to write code, or if needed, you could always do that. But empowering non-technical users to rapidly put together proof of concepts and even production applications by using the different building blocks that we have in our platform. On the screen here, you can see some of those building blocks. We have the screen builder. We have a dynamic UI where you can create dashboards and KPIs. We have a process modeler where you could define process-based workflows and BPMN 2.0 compliant. On the other side, we're also going to be looking at we're going to be using OpenRules Decision Manager to drive the business rules, and it's basically a rules-based operational decision management service that can be deployed either in the cloud or on-premise, and allows business users to make use of very familiar tools like Excel or Google spreadsheets to define their business rules and deploy those rules into the cloud or on servers on-premise. The process we're going to be building is taken from a sample on the OpenRules project, and we're building a loan pre-qualification and a loan origination process. So the pre-qualification process starts with the customer. We have a customer here, and the customer basically is interested in getting a loan from a bank, and we send that request to a banker who then adds its own opinion on the information filled by the customer. And then we send that off to a rules engine to make a decision whether the customer is qualified or not. If the customer is qualified, we send the customer an email confirming that they're qualified, and then the customer can complete the loan application. For the loan origination, we're flipping things a bit, and what we're doing with the loan origination is that we are taking the information from the customer and sending that to a rules engine. And with the rules engine, we're deciding how to route that request. Do we want to do a credit check on the customer? And then based on the result of the credit check, do we just approve the request directly or send it to a banker to review? For the process we're building, this is, we borrowed this rules, the process from the OpenRules DMN primer, which basically shows a BPMN process that collects the application data, sends it to the bureau, and depending on the strategy that we decide whether we're going to collect bureau data, we'd call an external service and then decide how to route the request, either sending to the banker to review, which is a refer decision, or decline the request outrightly, or accept the request. Having said that, these are the building blocks we'll use for the process. We're going to be using ProcessMaker, the process modeler, the screen builder, and the data connectors within ProcessMaker to put together our process. And then for the rules itself, we'll use Excel to define the business rules, and we'll publish them as Lambda functions into AWS. So without spending much more time on the slides, let's head over to our demonstration. So as many of you might already be familiar with ProcessMaker, this is the process modeler within ProcessMaker. And the modeler, we have our process that we've put together. I'm going to just talk us through the process briefly, and then would run a few requests to see how this works in practice. So the request starts with the customer filling out a web entry. Web entry basically is a block that allows a building block that we have within the platform that allows you to embed a form within a website or have a direct link you can share with people to fill out the form without having to log into the platform. In this use case, the customer starts by filling out that form, and then we send it to the banker to review the requests. Once the banker makes a review, the banker puts this decision, and we send that to the rules engine. Quickly to talk about the rules engine, we are connecting to the rules engine, which is deployed in AWS using the data connector element from our modeler. And the data connector, as you can see on the right here, we have an OpenRules data connector. We're calling the loan pre-qualification endpoint, and we're taking the response and mapping it back into our request data. Once the response comes back from the rules engine, we decide whether the response is, we evaluate the response using the decision gateway. If the customer is qualified, we notify the customer using an email element. Otherwise, it's unqualified rather. If it's qualified, we send a qualified notification. In the qualified notification, we have a link that sends the customer to another web entry. And this is one of the very cool things I like in PM4 is the ability to have web entries meet within the process as opposed to just at the start of a process, which allows us to drive communication between internal users and external users. So the customer receives a link to complete the application, and then once that application is submitted, we send it to the rules engine. And in the rules engine, we call the bureau strategy endpoint this time around to determine how we want to route this request. Do we want to make a credit check by collecting bureau data from an external credit bureau, or do we want to just route the application to the next decision, which is to determine whether the request should be accepted or declined, or outrightly decline the request based on the information that the customer has provided. The third rules service that we're calling is to determine how to route the request. We could either refer it, accept it, or decline the request. In the case that it is referred, it goes to the banker to review the application. And here we also have another screen that the banker is going to fill out to see the data from the decision services and make a final decision whether to accept the request or to decline it. So we evaluate the banker's decision at this gateway, and depending on the banker's decision, we notify the customer as appropriate. Okay, having said that, I think we could go ahead to see how this would work in practice. So I'm going to head over to a web entry form that we've built here. And what we're doing is we're capturing information about the customer. I'm just going to fill out the details of the customer. We have Charlene, credit score of 735, monthly income of, I think it should be 10,000. So, just change that to 10,000. Payment on debts of 2.5. And we asked if you have a mortgage, and do you have any other loans other than the mortgage? Yes. Charlene has about 1,200 on a credit card balance and no education loan. This time around, she'd like to borrow $100,000 for 36 months, and the purpose of the loan is for education. So we're just going to submit that request. And thank you. So having done that, based on our process map here, we expect the request to come to the banker to review. Here we're going to highlight one of the things we have in terms of assignment rules. For this task, we're driving this using a self-service assignment rule. We have different options within the platform for how you could assign requests. You could assign it directly to a user or to a requester or to a group of people. And since we're sending it to a group of loan officers, that would come to a self-service task where any of the loan officers can claim the request. So I'm going to claim this request that is coming, and I'm just going to review that request, claim the task. As you can see, I can also reassign the task to other users. So if I click reassign here, for example, I can assign it to another loan officer to attend to the request. So this is the information that is coming from the customer. I'm going to perform an internal review, and I'm just going to say, giving you internal credit rating of F. My opinion is that this is a medium risk, so that is mid, and it pre-qualify. What this does is it then sends the requests to the rules engine. So here we are calling our loan pre-qualification rules engine, and based on the response from the loan pre-qualification rules engine, we would know whether the customer is qualified or unqualified, and the customer would receive an email notification. So I'll head over to my email here. You can see right now we've received an email from the bank saying that they're qualified for the loan. So I'm going to just take that link. I'm going to copy that link and head over to my other browser here and just paste that. Okay. We can see that the data from the initial request is copied, is persisted. So the customer can see the information already provided and just add additional information to complete the application. So monthly expenses is 3,051, married, I'm an existing customer, and I'm self-employed. My security number is 23419. 446 and continue. And one thing we're doing here is we're using a multi-page form, which allows you to take very long forms and split it into several pages. So as opposed to having a very long form, you could also use the multi-page form to split long forms to shorter forms and then have the user tab through them. And that gives a better user experience. So we select our loan here. She wants a standard loan for 100,000 already for 36 months and submit that application. With the application submitted, we return back to our process. So we've just completed this task here, which is complete application. And we're now sending the request to the rules engine to determine the bureau strategy. Based on the response from the rules engine, would either be collecting the bureau data or routing the application to the next rules, to the next decision service, which is the application routing, and they would make a decision whether to accept the loan or to send it to a banker to review. While we do that, one of the things we have in ProcessMaker is what we call the safe search. So here I've created a safe search to help me track all loan requests that are in flight. And the current one that we have is this one, which is what we've just submitted, a request from Charlene. And we can see here that the decision from the bureau strategy was to make a bureau check, and our routine decision is to accept the request, which means that the customer would receive a loan, that their application has been accepted. We could also build charts that allow you to view the different statuses of requests in flight. So here we could see a visual graph showing us how many requests have been sent to the bureau for credit check and how many are being automatically accepted, how many are being referred. So that said, if I come back to my email, and I can see here that Charlene has received an email saying that your request has been accepted. Now we've seen the process working, but let's see how a business analyst can then make a change to the business rules without having to touch the process, and see how that affects requests that are coming into the application. So I'm going to head over to business rules here. This is typically how we'll define the business rule using OpenRules decision management service. Here you can see a decision table that we've defined here, and we have the different parameters we're evaluating to make a decision, whether the customer can afford the loan, if the customer is bankrupt, the risk category, whether it's high or it's low or medium, and the customer's credit score. Right now, we're making a decision saying that if the credit score is less than 720, then it needs to be referred. However, if it's greater than 720, you can automatically accept the loan application. So let's say the bank has decided, oh, we want to increase our risk. We're trying to reduce our risk appetite, and we want only customers that have a credit score above 750 to be automatically accepted. All the analyst has to do is come into the rules and make that change here in Excel. I'm going to save the changes I've made, and by simply clicking the deploy script in the OpenRules project, the system is going to just take that and publish it to AWS. Here we can see the script running in the background, just so we can see what it's doing. It's going to run a couple of test cases to be sure that everything is fine. So we can see that all our current test cases defined are successful. And it's going to take that decision and upload it to AWS. A quick look at what's happening in AWS. Over here in AWS, if I refresh this, you can see the different decision services I have published, and this is the routine decision that I've just changed, and you can see it's updated just a few seconds ago. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come back to the browser here and make a new request using the exact same parameters. So nothing has changed about the customer. What we've done is we've changed the business rule driving the process, and let's see how the system handles this. So quickly fill that out again. Charlene, credit score is still 735, monthly income is 10,000 with a 2,500 monthly debt payments, and she has a mortgage and has other loans and has 1,200 on the mortgage, no education loan, and would like to borrow 100,000 for 36 months and needs that for education. I'm going to submit that request, and as a banker, should receive the request and review it. So I'm going to go to the self-service task, pick the request that has come in, review it, and I'm going to apply the same rating, an F and the mid rating, and hit pre-qualify. That sends that off to the customer. We expect all rules to remain the same, and Charlene should receive an email notification saying that she's qualified for the loan. I'm just going to refresh my inbox. So we received the email notification, says you're qualified for the loan. Copy that link. Okay, so we have our application here as before. I'm going to put in the same figures. It's 51, married, an existing customer, self-employed, social security number 419-446. Continue. I want a standard loan for 36 months and submit the application. Now, with the change in our rule, if we come back to our tracker here, so let's go to come to data and refresh this. So we can see that the bureau strategy is still bureau, so we're making a credit check here. The routine has not been updated yet. Let me refresh that. So we can see that our routine decision this time around is the referral. So we're referring the application, which means that if we come back to our process, when we refer, we're going to send it to the banker to review the loan application. So if I go back to my self-service tasks here, I should see request to review. I'm going to just open that, claim the task. And here we can see the request that is coming from Charlene, the same information. We can see this lovely tab navigation that we've put together here. So you can tap between the pages to review the requests, and then continuing, I can come to the application and see the actual analysis that have been done by the rules engine. So based on the internal rules analysis, the risk category is defined as low, it's affordable, risk score is 129, monthly installment is 3153, disposable income is 45. You can see the bureau strategy. We did a mini call to the bureau. This is the risk result from the mini check to the bureau. A credit score is confirmed as 735, and the banker can then make a decision and says, okay to lend, and make a decision and say accept. And with that, we notify the customer of our decision. So coming back to the process here, to our email, we can see the feedback to the customer that your loan application has been accepted. So as we can see, if I come back to the process here, you can see some of the audit trails that we have in the process itself. You can see all the different things that has happened as the request was progressing. So we could see that the user submitted this via web entry, was reviewed by the admin user, the system did the loan pre-qualification, decided that the customer was qualified for the loan, notified the customer of the loan of their qualification, and then the customer completed the application. We did the bureau strategy, and then we collected bureau data, and then we routed the application to the banker to review. The banker reviewed the application, and we can see exactly who is doing what, and the decision was to accept the request, and that was how the process was completed. So as we've seen so far, I just want to quickly show us how we would configure the connection to the OpenRules service. So right here, we can see that we're using the connector. I just want to quickly show us how the data connectors were configured. So I'm going to open that in the new tab here. And here we can see some of the different connectors that we have defined in this system. Here's my OpenRules decision manager endpoints. And if I go to this, you can see the different endpoints I have configured. And as you can see here, we're basically just calling the URL that is provided by the Lambda function. And mapping the parameters from process. So we're taking the different ProcessMaker variables and mapping it to the JSON format that the endpoint requires us to pass. And beautiful thing about data connectors is that you can actually test your connectors by passing some sample data into that to be sure that everything works as expected. If I just, for example, if I say run here, I can see the sample response that would come back from the service using that sample data. And back to our process. So in wrapping it up, I think we've seen how we could take business process and use a rules engine like OpenRules to drive that decision making, whether from in addition to taking external data and user reviewed information, or basically just even driving the entire process from the beginning to the end using the rules. And you can also easily modify those rules using Excel and publishing it to AWS Lambda. So that's all from me today, and I'll hand you over to Matt to take it from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepo. That was very, very insightful. We're going to open it up for Q&A now. I'm sure there's quite a few questions as we went through quite a few services. And you can submit questions using the Q&A function in Zoom. Any questions we don't get to today on the webinar, feel free to send them to marketing@processmaker.com, and we'll be sure to follow up with every single one of them, as well as emailing everyone who registered and attended today's webinar, the recording afterwards. So with that said, we're going to open it up for Q&A.
All right, so we got our first question. How do we combine various business rules dependent on each other? We haven't seen the RPA capability. What's the alternative?
Hi, this is Deepo speaking. And okay, so how do we combine various business rules dependent on each other? So that can be done on the OpenRules file. So for example, in the webinar, we looked at the rules for the bureau strategy and the application routing. However, that could have been a single business rule. So the initial example from OpenRules actually had all of those business rules as a single rule. So it would do the bureau strategy, do the application routing all together, and then send you a single loan origination result. So you could actually break your rules into different files and cascade them. So you could either break them into different tasks or have them as a single business rules file in OpenRules.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers the question.
And our second question we have is the web entry screen totally configurable, and what code base?
So the web entry screen is basically a form that you have in ProcessMaker. So it's the same as any of your screens in ProcessMaker. You basically just make, you can either put it as a starting task, or it could be a task in the middle of the process. And for the configuration, I'm not sure what exactly you mean by configuration in terms of code. I don't know if Diane could provide a bit more clarity there.
Any other questions, just submit through the Q&A function in Zoom. Diane, if you want to elaborate on that question, Deepo can probably answer it a little bit better. So the question is, can the task list be customized to display in a specific order? For example, can values be put on certain items?
Yes, so I think I'm assuming when you mean the task list and the order in which they come. Yes, you can always reorder your task list depending on the process requirements. Values can be prefilled in different formats. You could prefill values based on external data sources through a script task or a data connector. So let's say, for example, you're filling a request for a customer and you have data about that customer in a separate data store. You could basically use a data connector to pull the data and pre-fill the forms with the information required before the screens are displayed.
Okay, I think that's it for questions. Thank you very much, Debo, and thank you very much, everyone, for attending today. Oh, we have one more question.
More questions, yeah. I think, do endpoints have to be URLs? Yes, for the business rules, using OpenRules, the deployment generates a REST endpoint. So that's what we use for OpenRules, yes.
And we also got another question, can you generate reports?
Yes, you can generate reports using what we call safe searches in ProcessMaker, and then export those to either CSV or Excel. So you could generate reports of the data of your screens. All the data filled in by the users can be exported via CSV or Excel. You can also create custom charts also as part of the reports. So you could have a dashboard along with your saved search.
All right, we'll just give it a few more seconds to see if anyone has any other questions. Yes, this has been recorded. We will be following up after the webinar and emailing everyone the recording. So yes, you will have access to it. And if there aren't any other questions,
So no coding is required. Okay, so I think the question is, do we need to do coding for reports or is it standard? So the reports are standard out of the box. You don't have to do, there's no need to do any code. We have a feature called the saved search. So what you'd typically do is you'd create a new saved search and it will show you all the fields that are available in your screens, and you could drag and drop the fields you want to include in your report. You can filter the reports using additional queries, so specify date ranges and save that report. You could have it scheduled. So the saved searches can also be scheduled to send the reports to you automatically. So let's say you have a report you want to see, all account open requests in the past 24 hours sent to you every morning. You could actually schedule that in the system. With no coding required, and you could generate charts for that also. So you do not require any coding to build the reports.
awesome. Any other questions? Feel free to submit.
What are the jobs I can get with ProcessMaker? Okay, so I think there's a question here. What are jobs I can get with ProcessMaker? Well, they're quite it's the platform itself. So the different roles that you can work with on the platform. So as a business analysts, basically getting requirements from business and prototyping, building prototypes of the process. You could work as a developer also, building out the automations for the platform, orchestrating and integrating them with other platforms. And yeah, I think those are some of the two things that come readily to mind. Is there multiple levels of user access, and can this be designed in-house? Yes, we do have multiple levels of user access. So in the platform, we have what we call groups, and you can define permissions either on the user level or on the groups level. So typically, we'll build permissions for both the user and for the groups rather, and assign permissions to that groups. And then the users are assigned to the groups. So you could basically create different user profiles, like a different group for the designers, a different group for the business analysts, a different group for the loan officers, for example, and give them different permissions. And all of this can easily be configured within the platform. You just go to the permissions page and check which permissions you want to enable for those groups of users.
All right. Any other questions? Does this replace the need for CRM?
So I think there are different solutions. You could build out a CRM on the platform here, but ProcessMaker is more of a platform that allows you to rapidly build automations. So you could build out beyond the CRM, you could build out your other forms and internal approvals. You could build like a vendor management system, an inventory management system, a CRM, but it would not have the features of a CRM out of the box. So you would have to build those things if you want them.
All right, we'll just give it another moment if anyone has any final questions. All right, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. Thank you, Deepo, again.
Thanks, Matt.
Like I said, we will be following up with a recording of the webinar, so you should expect to receive that this afternoon. If anyone thinks of any questions we weren't able to get to on the webinar, feel free to send them to marketing@processmaker.com, and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thank you, everyone.